So their mind, those people had two, usually most of them, the far majority of people back then were working class, and the far majority of the working classes back then had two outfits wearable at one time, per person. So I would re-say that. Two outfits available at one time to wear per person. That means two trousers, two waist coverings, two coats. Because it is England, they have one overcoat. They likely have one hat, one pair of footwear, and max 4 of each undergarments, or in other words, 4 socks to wear at one time. 4 undertrousers, 4 undershirts, and they probably have 2 shirts, 1 undertrousers, 4 undershirts. And they do not really have anything else, even if it is unwearable or too small, because they live in crowded spaces, they do not have much space or money, and they do not want to bother thinking about that. In that time, you did not think historical value of things. People lived way more down to earth day by day. They knew nothing about the past compared to how much we know today. They might have known less about the 1830s and 1890 than we today know about the 1830s, or the age gap. Sorry, the times gap is much bigger. Joe Average then would have known less about 20 years ago before his time, or let's say 40, 50 years ago before his time, that he now is, not that he was born in that. Let's say Joe Average, age 30 in 1850, knows less about 1820 than Joe Average today knows about 1820. Although Joe Average of 1850 was born in 1820. So people did not think, oh, this is all it will become fascist. They were not thinking like that. They were simply thinking day by day. Not survive. To me, most of them were not in survival mode, but still life was much harder. They was just thinking, my life, day by day. Today I'm going to beat my children, which was common then. Tomorrow we're going to the pub. How will I pay the rent for the end of the week? Oh, my tie broke down, but it can still be reduced. It becomes too small. My son of 12 years old needs a tie. He does not think, well, but if I now give it to him, it will become all worn out and has to be disintegrated. What about the future? I actually like that tie. He does not think like that. He simply gives it to him, gets another tie. Life moves on. A lot of people still think sort of like that today, but less people think like that, and also the people that think like that still think less like that. And this behavior was again through the ages. The further you go in the past, the less people cared about the future or the past, and cared more about the immediate future. And especially the further away you go from the West. Our culture really developed in the West, and as time progressed, take care more and so on. So that also say that most of the clothing you find, unlike what is told to you, most of the things you find in museums belong to the upper classes, and thus do not represent at all what the vast majority of people. They might represent the overall style, but it does not represent the cloth quality and the quality of measurements, which also everything was tailor-made then. A tailor for a working class person does the basic measurements. A tailor for a middle class person does a bit more. A tailor for an upper middle class person does clearly a lot more. A tailor for an upper class person does the best. A tailor for a high upper class person, think Lord Grantham and above, he does some of the best job available in terms of measurements. And that goes for every single thing. The stitching does not represent. In museums, usually these garments belong to the upper classes due to what I have explained prior. And it is long to explain. So so they use better threads, they were better sewers, better tailors, took more measurements into control, like the tiny things you never thought about. The man taking your measurements was almost like a doctor when you every single part of your body. The cloth is much better, whether it be for the interlining, whether it be for the lining or the outside cloth you've seen. Everything is a high quality, so the overall style may be the same even as the working class, but the overall effect is completely different because the cloth and everything is different. The colors may even be different. The patterns may be different because certain complex patterns are harder to make or less available, and so on and so forth. And also, but so what most things you find are not from the working class, because the working class until the 1920s, they did not even keep their things at all. Most garments, order to have in the hardware you think the last 40 years, there's nothing more stupid than that. I explained in the Gangs of New York. When you lived their life of back then, you only had 2 outfits, knowing that they always had a better outfit for the sun that they would wear, until the everyday outfit would wear down completely. In such a case, it would be usually taken down and step by step taken down to repair the parts they cut off to make it smaller for, let's say, the adolescent boy. They use those cut-off parts to repair other things, to patch other things. Then once the adolescent, it wears out even more, maybe after a year or 2, max 2 years. No, probably max a year because the cloth is already used. They cut it down even further for the old children, because small children wore dresses. So for small children, like think between the ages of 5 to 10. There's parts they cut down they also use to patch other things, or if they had to run out as rags and stuff like that, or to fill in, to repair stuff, like to fill in between walls, the gap. And then finally, when the small child wears out after 6 months or a year, they take the full thing apart. So basically the outfit, it lasts 5-10 years max, before it is not even a recognizable garment. It's not even a garment anymore. And that's only the buttons survive, because buttons are long lasting. And when they are not broken down completely. So what has survived? And the middle classes, they would do that thing too, but less. And they would pass it down to servants more, because most middle class even had servant, had one servant. Even not the upper middle class, even the middle class. They had one servant at least for a few times a week. They would also pass things down to them. They would also do a lot of repairs, like I explained. They would simply not wait for the cloth to be that damaged to actually alter it and change it, because they wanted to look newer. The upper middle class did that less, but they had a permanent servant. The upper middle classes, most of them, were actually low upper middle class, and they only had one maid. She was known as a maid of all chores. She was there permanently, except she had 1 day off, or 1.5 days off. They would pass things to her. And what, again, would keep those people were the ones to keep things. They would keep it less than the upper classes, but that is the thing. The working class, they have their everyday outfit and their Sunday wear that they also wear to special occasions, maybe weddings and all. It would usually be the same outfit that they had worn for their wedding, made for their wedding day. Or if they had never wed, it might have been passed on to them, or just made for special occasions. They went to church. When after a year or 2, the normal outfit is too well to consider to be worn, they wear that one as the normal outfit. So even for them, the special occasion outfit has not survived for the vast majority of them. And when they wear that one, they make a new special outfit. Why did they think like that? You might tell me, why did they not just wear the same for church, because already it has gone out a bit, and they really think practicality. Because of the life, I have explained how the philosophical aspect of their lives function. That off. They think wisely that, okay, that's all good. I have kept that outfit since I wed last year. I could keep it as a souvenir and only wear it to church, so it lasts a long time. But in all likelihood, I will gain weight, or lose weight, and it will no longer fit well. So I might as well use that beautiful, well-made outfit whilst I still can. So now that this one is worn, I will not make another one to wear every day. I will instead make another one to wear on church, and pass the church one that had initially been made for my wedding a year ago to me to wear every day, and so forth it moved. And so as time progressed, they changed throughout the fashions and construction techniques changed. And so most of the garments of that class, or in other words, of most of the humanity even of the Western world, even of Britain, which had the lowest working class population, most of their garments have pre-1920 have simply not even survived, not even as a wearable garment, simply as a garment that looks like what it initially was created to be, in other words, a coat or whatever. The only ones but the upper middle class, they had more money to keep a bit of souvenir garments. Those souvenir garments were the formal ones as I explained it. They would not keep the less formal ones. They would either transform them like the working class did, or simply forget about them and pass them on to charity, or to servants, or to less well-to-do friends, family members, and tell them deal with it. Because you might think, why, likewise, as parallelly as to the upper classes, Why have the special occasion garments, in other words, the black ones that have survived today and available for sale easily, why have they not kept it within the family? Within the family that stayed rich? Because middle classes, even upper middle classes, are much more fluctuating